Okay, Georgia getting closer to playing their first conference game of the season. Dean Legge and Ryan Curley going to drive you back home. Another edition of Riding Home. Ryan, the Georgia Bulldogs are pretty significant favorites over South Carolina, and Kirby Smart spoke today. Shane Beamer had his press conference today. Let's start with Kirby tonight. Now we're two practices into it. What did he have to say about the Dogs?
Yeah, I think he likes the energy a lot more this week than he did last week. We know that they had what was considered to be a pretty bad practice in his eyes last Tuesday. So a week ago, and that's actually what I asked him about, and asked him about what the energy was like, and he said he's been pretty pleased with it so far. Talked to Javon Bullard. I think they did come out flat last week, right? And maybe practice had something to do with it. Maybe it just being Samford had something to do with it. But whatever it was, there definitely was a lack of energy, and I just don't think we're going to see that again. I don't think you see that from these guys twice. Not with this coaching staff, and not with the experience that you've got on that team.
Yeah, were they flat? I want to
Flat
make
is a good way to put it, in my
I
opinion.
I thought they were not crisp the way that you want to be. Um, I have wound up on football's mobile site somehow. I did want to go and see what they did. I think from what I recall, just watching it, I sort of expected Georgia to come out and um, jump all over Samford, and they did jump on them. But I don't want to make too much about the Samford game.
Yeah.
They did win that game. I mean, they were up 30-0.
I mean, they
Uh,
won 33-0, which that's not nothing. So,
no, but they did leave some points on the
yes.
board for sure. I can't get into their. This is very
What are we searching for right now? What are we?
right now. I want to see the drive chart because I do remember them kicking a fair amount of field goals. And you said they came out flat. I don't know if I remember it that way, but nonetheless,
They did not come out with the punch they came out with against Oregon.
they didn't score a bunch of touchdowns in a row. I mean, that's what it comes down
No,
to.
and Kirby after the game said, "You don't win games kicking
Kicking
field
field
goals." So,
goals. Yeah.
but as far as South Carolina goes, they know the drill. This program's under Kirby Smart. They've gone up there a few times. It's going to be in the 90s. It looks like low 90s probably.
Oh, really?
And
When did that happen?
I looked at it earlier, so I think
Oh,
we're high 80s, low 90s is what we're looking at.
okay. So it actually has increased. So at kickoff for this game, you're looking at the low 80s, and by the time the game ends, it's going to be in mid 80s. If you've never been to Columbia for a game and you're watching this, I can assure you that this is not that bad. And
Good.
I've seen much worse. But let me see the humidity. Is the
Oh,
nor
that's the
That's
real.
what you need to really worry about.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't. I don't think that we'll feel comfortable outside. I guess is my point. And Kirby was asked about the
no, it won't.
heat. It was probably my favorite Kirby. I like it when Kirby's sarcastic to other people. That's cool with me.
Oh, that's
Uh,
fun to you. You like that.
sometimes if I'm in the right mood, if I'm in the mood.
That
But
happens.
that was one of his funnier answers today. So sometimes I laugh at it, and I almost did actually laugh out loud. But someone asked him about what they do to prepare for the heat, and he said, "You practice in the heat during the summer with a
Yeah.
straight face." And I was like,
Yeah,
"What's your
no,
answer?"
I mean, listen, I am a bit of an expert on playing in South Carolina in college, and it is definitely extremely hot in Columbia.
Yeah.
Almost all of September and August. We used to do conditioning during this time of the year. What was that?
A
Was that
lot
your?
of things, a lot of bad things happened at once.
Oh, yeah, a lot of bad
Holding it
happened.
up.
But let me tell you something. A lot of bad things happened when I was conditioning in college too. That was not a pretty sight. But it is extremely hot in South Carolina this time of year, and Columbia is in a lower part of elevation in the state, and it just seems to really get hot there. If you are into chain link fences, parking lots, and a lot of warehouse, you're going to love Columbia. It's the place for you. But I think, I listen to Shane.
Warehouses? I've
You
never been
you
to Columbia.
Oh man, I'm
I'm
not.
what?
I'm not sure how to prepare you. Have you gotten your tetanus shot yet? Are you up on
Uh,
all immunizations?
I'm immune. Yeah, I've immunized. Probably better
Okay.
than Aaron Rodgers, but I've
Your pinky
immunized.
your pinky toe is in good shape. Um,
Yeah.
it's better than it used to be, but it's not the greatest thing on earth. And
Okay.
around where Carolina plays around Williams Brice, that is a warehouse area. That's just all there is to it. There's no good way. It's not pretty. You could nearly die on either Shop Road or Bluff Road. I can't remember which one it is, but you seriously are taking your life in your own hands. State troopers do not seem to care about the fact that there is no sidewalk on one of those roads. So, I'm not joking. People should be very careful on that road, and it's one of the roads the stadium is on. So, but I think, to me, when you look at this game, Ryan, I do want to watch South Carolina a little bit more. They were really unimpressive against Georgia State, and
I agree.
that's
Agreed.
not something you want. I don't know. Matt and I watched a good portion of Carolina live against Arkansas. We didn't get a great chance to watch the entire game because, of course, we left. But I think this is gonna. So if Georgia is practicing well, that's really not good for South Carolina. I don't think. I think this is. I've gone to this game, covered this game, gone to this game, every single game except one since 1993. I feel like I really know this game. I think South Carolina's going to get killed on Saturday. I don't know if they're. I don't know if South Carolina's going to cover the line. Georgia's going to cover the line. That line is, to me. I start getting a little bit cowardly once we get to close to 3.5 on the road. You have to cover. I'm not super, pumped up about that. It's kind of settled into 24.5. That is 3.5 scores, Ryan. That's a lot of points. I don't like
Yeah,
that.
I think that they're that much better.
They they are. I would say
So
they are.
I think I just I really do think that last week matters. I know Kirby wasn't totally happy with the way that they played.
And he shouldn't be.
Um and I feel like they're going to come out firing against an SEC opponent.
Right. Two things just real quick, because I don't want to. First of all, make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION. The link is down below. And, we worked really hard on this book. It's a great way to help us get through this season. Ryan and I will be flying to Missouri here in the near future. Um, we don't have a money tree in the backyard. Supporting us is the number one way to help this channel. I don't want to make too much about the Samford game, because it is 8% of the season, if that. Um, I don't. You shouldn't make too much of the Oregon game, but I do think that a solid week of practices will let Georgia kind of hone in here and get ready for a league game. You're playing on the road, you're playing in the league. Neither of those things are cakewalks. And, South Carolina can be a really challenging place to play, particularly when you're Georgia. They are 10-5 coming into this thing in Williams Brice since Carolina came into the league. I fully expect that to be 11-5 in the very near future. But there's a lot of trauma from the past that you essentially were not alive for, Ryan. And I will be glad to go through those traumatic events if I need to.
All
But
right.
it's okay.
I'm
You're
all
gonna
right.
you're gonna skip that part.
Yeah,
I,
I'll skip to the end.
well, here's the point. You just don't want them ripping down goalposts. And Georgia's going in as the number one team in the country. We've seen South Carolina beat Georgia, that's ranked in the top 10 before, in Williams Brice, and I can assure you that's a scary scene. 2000, uh, uh, 2012, these were good Georgia teams. Excuse me. Well, one of them was a good Georgia team. One of those was a very good Georgia team that lost. But South Carolina, this is a really, 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 really big game for them. They don't play Clemson at home this year. I cannot stress how important this game is. I also cannot stress how far apart these programs are right now, Ryan. And I think it is not out of the question that Georgia's defense could outscore South Carolina's offense this week. And
Ooh,
saying I'm not saying that with any hubris or any like making fun of Carolina. That's not what this is. I think you've got a quarterback that tries to make plays with Spencer Rattler, and that ball is going to be there to be had. And if Georgia will just grab it and score, they may outscore South Carolina. I think it's going to be hard for Carolina to score on this defense. But I've been there enough to know you just don't roll in there and Carolina roll over and die.
that is a a bold thought. I wouldn't say that'd be shocking to me. I don't get what this Spencer Rattler hype in Athens is all of a sudden. I
Well, we
mean,
got to write
these,
about something.
these guys are getting drilled with questions about Spencer Rattler as if he's Bryce Young. Or like, what? I don't know, man. I just don't. I've never seen Spencer Rattler play at the level that he was hyped up to be.
Right.
And I think he certainly has talent. I think he certainly has a big arm. He definitely can move, but he has far from put it together the way that people thought he would. And he has never played a defense of Georgia's caliber. Never. He has never played a defense that good. And I think if you went, well, listen, man, that's not even crazy. You don't even have to look at their schedules to say that.
I was going
So
to. Don't
you're
worry.
going to think about it. You don't even have to look at that. Of the last 2 years, since he's been in college, he has never played a defense as good as Georgia's. I have a hard time seeing him play up to this hype. I mean, he hasn't even played that well against Georgia State and Arkansas.
So what Ryan's talking about is so far for the season, Spencer Rattler's at 47 of 76 for 603 yards. The yardage is not bad, that's for sure. So that's 62% completion rate. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's not ideal.
Not
But
enough, man.
hold on, bro. Let me just. I know this is a real bro fest, and we got to get some different people in here, but um, here's the real number, Ryan. This is a problem, and Georgia needs to take advantage of this. He's been sacked 9 times. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 9 times, 9 times, 9 times. Some of those are runs, but he's not had a 10-yard run this season. He's run the ball 16 times. That's not going to get it done, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
This will be the biggest challenge he's ever had. It'll be the biggest challenge he's ever had as far as facing a defense. But look, I'm not going to underestimate the atmosphere that might be up there in Columbia, the noon kick.
That does not help. That does not help South Carolina.
So why explain?
Well, I mean, listen, they do have really good fans. I think they have fans sometimes that put up with a lot of stuff that most normal people wouldn't put up with, like the losing for decades or the, whatever you want to call it for decades. If you're Carolina, you want a fully lubed up and ready to go Williams-Brice Stadium. You can't do that at noon. And there will be a lot of Georgia people at this game. And I don't know that it won't be a takeover game like they've had in the past I wouldn't say Tennessee, but and it's hard to distinguish between the two colors because the red and the garnet are pretty similar. But the Georgia is of course a lot lighter red, and the garnet is darker. But you want a fully charged, ready to roll Williams-Brice Stadium. You'll see a little bit what I'm talking about at the beginning of the game. But Ryan, there's 2 problems here. Number one, South Carolina's already lost the game. That's tough for them. Okay. Number 2, the game being at noon, folks are just not going to be at peak fandom at 12 o'clock. It doesn't happen. We should know that. And Georgia's kids are going to be ready to roll out. They're going to be ready to play. And this doesn't seem like a great combination for South Carolina. That's all I'm saying. At some point here, I'm not going to be so high on Georgia. I didn't think Georgia played well last week, man. They just didn't defensively. They played great, but there were some things that weren't what you wanted a week ago from Georgia. But I think, and I wrote about this today on Dog Post, this is a moment for Georgia to come in and send a message to the country, the conference, and most importantly, to themselves. We are here to destroy you. We are here to strike fear into college football. That's what, if these guys are what I think they are, Ryan, that's what I have to see on Saturday.
I completely agree with you about that. I think that this is their. I think they did it a little bit against Oregon.
They did. Oh yeah.
And I think that this is their first. This is their next. How about this? This is their next opportunity. We'll keep getting those opportunities, but this is their next opportunity to open everybody's eyes. I think that they can send a message to the country. They just got that #1 ranking. They don't have to worry about justifying it. They don't care about that, but justify it. I mean, show everyone that it's clear cut and that it's not a question. That's right. They have a real opportunity to go in there and spank them. They could, and I think they will.
Well, I think they will too. I'm not so sure they come to the line, but one
really,
thing that
I'm pretty confident they do.
I'm not so confident. I said we'll see. One thing that Shane was talking about today in his press conference. I do want to talk about Shane for a second here. The South Carolina's head coach, Shane Beamer, and I have a lot of insight ties. I have a lot of connections inside of South Carolina's situation. I'm not so sure. I mean, I do think that South Carolina's going to lose this game, but I'm not so sure he's doing it the wrong way, because if you try to do what Georgia's doing at Georgia in Columbia, it is not going to work. I don't think it will work. When Steve Spurrier was at South Carolina, and Shane was with him during some of this time, he had a great run. I mean, that was the greatest run in South Carolina football history. They also happened to have Marcus Lattimore, Jadeveon Clowney, a couple of guys in the defensive secondary that were freaks, and then Connor Shaw. They don't have players like that right now. And I think for Shane, it's about getting back to that level, and he's got to do it however he can. If that involves, Ryan, putting sunglasses on and doing Soldier Boy before media days and getting people to talk about him, then do it, But he can't be he's not going to succeed if he tries to out Georgia. It's not going to happen, okay? So I'm not as negative about him as I think certainly a lot of Clemson people are. He is Dabo. He's just not as cranky. He's not as
he's cheesy, but they like it.
So is Dabo, right?
Yeah. So
he's just not as got as many grievances as Dabo does yet. So we'll see how that goes. But I think so far this season they're not pointing in the right direction. They're not playing well. But I think that he does need to be given a little bit of time. He bought some of that a season ago with the wins over Auburn, Florida, and North Carolina. Don't underestimate the North Carolina win. But right now, these two teams are in different universes, man. And I think Georgia is going to be tough to stop. Stetson did not play as well as I thought he did against Samford. He was a little bit off, comparatively speaking. But I don't want to overreact to a game against Samford. And so I'm going to talk less and less about that as time goes on. But I think that, this Georgia team, they're not the unanimous #1, Ryan. They're the #1 team by the outlet we use, which is the AP. But it doesn't mean that everybody believes they are. I think they need to come into this weekend and throttle the chickens, period. That's all there is to it. They're too good.
The chicken's
Cox,
good.
Did you want me to say something else? We've got a
week, Athens,
we've got controversies in Columbia about which nickname we're using. What's that?
The Cock Commander. That's
Cock Commander has been removed.
Ah, man, that was the best option.
They have cock blocked it, if you will. No, okay. They have removed that.
Do you understand cock block?
I know what that means, and we're not going to get that graphic around here. Actually, that's
not
the opposite.
We're not late enough in the video.
Well, that's actually the opposite of being graphic, if you think about it. So, right?
It's prevention from graphic concepts.
Correct. Conceptualization. I love it. I like Georgia in this game. I like them big. I don't know. I'm
What's
not
big to you? Define big.
3 touchdowns, but I'm not super pumped up about giving any. I like on the road conference games. If I'm an SEC team and I'm getting 3.5 touchdowns, I'm really tempted to put your apartment up as my as my cash. I might go for that
My
because
apartment.
yours. I'm not messing with my stuff. I'm not messing with my stuff at all. But I just don't like that. I think it's just I don't know. That makes me jumpy. But I think just from what I've seen, and I want to watch the end of the Arkansas game because South Carolina did
They
rally.
scored towards
They
the end.
did. But it's kind of like a little late at time. I mean, they did rally back into it. They were only down 5 in the third quarter. I think it was they were down 21-16. That's not the end of the world, but these sacks are not good enough. The interceptions are not the end of the world. He's only got 3 interceptions. But damn, man, Ryan, you can't have 250 yards average getting run on. That's the part.
No.
It's all of that.
Well, and if you're turning the ball over against Georgia, I mean, just go ahead and say goodnight because you're going to have a real problem. It's something
I
that
think so.
my father and I talk about over the years with Alabama. If you turn the ball over against Alabama, you're going to lose the game. And that's, something that I think is starting to become the case with Georgia. If you just give them the ball too much, I mean, they will score.
But think about it, man. It's in any business you want to maximize your opportunity. Typically, most games you're going to get around 12 possessions of the ball. If you give one away, that's not that big of a deal. If you give away two, you know, but more than two, you're really in trouble. Like Joe Burrow and them, they nearly stole that game the other day, man. I was
5 Joe
yes.
Burrow turnovers, and they almost won.
And they should have won, frankly. But actually, both teams should have won that game. But
That was a
nonetheless,
basketball
it
game to
was
watch.
strange. The first week of the NFL was just like,
It was fun though. It was
what is
the whole
happening
fun
right
because it
now?
was chaotic.
It was very good entertainment, and football is king in this country, no doubt. But I think Georgia, this is a mature program. I think we saw a week ago with Alabama at Texas. They're still growing right now. Um, and you saw that show up with the 15 penalty. Was it 15 or 12 penalties
I don't.
Alabama had? I don't anticipate Georgia
It
having
was a
that many.
lot though. It
I
was
don't
a lot.
anticipate Georgia having that many penalties. If Carolina comes in, starts blocking punts like they did against Georgia State, it's a different situation. But um, I am skeptical of South Carolina's chances. I'll put it to you like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll change. I mean, at the moment, I think that Georgia's going to cover that spread. I think they're that much better than South Carolina. I thought Carolina would be better than what I've seen the first 2 weeks.
I don't
I did
disagree with
think that
that.
they were going to be. I thought that they were going to take a bit. I don't know what this team is compared to last year's team because we got to see a little bit more. But I thought there would have been a bigger step forward at this point.
But dude, their
First game
offensive.
was the real problem. I didn't think they beat Arkansas. The first game was the real problem. You can't let Georgia State stick around like that. But
Yeah, but man, listen, just say this
talent
real quick.
gap between 2 teams is too big.
You can't get beat up on the line the way they have been. South Carolina's special teams from 2010 to say 13, 14, they had big guys. They had Clowney, they had Melvin Ingram, they had guys. That's not there right
They
now.
they had the dudes in the early 2010s. They
No,
don't have
no
guys.
question. No, they
They don't
don't.
have a player like a Clowney or a Stephon Gilmore in the defensive back room.
Gilmore,
He was the player of the year in the NFL. They don't have guys like that.
no, not right now. And the thing about Rattler's situation is, hey man, just come out. Hey, you can prove us wrong. Do
Yeah,
it.
no. We're never, it's never God's word, right? Like
No,
it's what we know for now. Things can
but
change.
but it does not appear to me so far in the 6 quarters of Carolina I've watched that it's the big guys are the problem. And honestly, if you're getting sacked 9 times, that's probably more the big guys than it is Spencer Rattler. But anyway, we've talked this to death. Hey, thanks for watching Riding Home. We'll see you on the website.